very good, speakers in their domain. So that's how the importance of this STTP, and maybe primarily because of that very reason, we received a wonderful response of the participants. And for your information, we have the participants from almost all parts of the country, right? Up north, JNK, down south, up to Tamil Nadu, and then in the northeastern states, and around Rajasthan, and also a lot of participation from kind of all across the country. So that way, we are really very happy with, and and we've had until now, the talks by. Professor Vivek Kumar from IIT Delhi, Professor Madhvi from IIT Bangalore, and Professor Subramaniam from IIT Hyderabad. So like that, we've been that way, lucky to have your kind consent. So thank you so very much for accepting our invitation and being there with us in this morning session. So thank you, Professor Lizzie. And I can introduce you to the organizing team also. Professor Lizzie, maybe you can show up if it's okay with you, if there's no bandwidth issue, so that they can say the greetings with you. Professor Lizzie, if you can. So we have the TechUp coordinator, Dr. Opri Jakar from GEC Bikaner.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And he's the convener also of this program. We have Dr. H.D. Chalak from NIT Kurukshetra Civil Engineering Department. You might have met him during the academic audit, maybe. Dr.
Yes.
Chalak, if you can exchange greetings once. Dr. Chalak, if you can hear me, you can say namaste to ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, ma'am.
And we have Dr. Praveen Purohit from GEC Bikaner, madam, one of the coordinators. Dr. Praveen, I could see you. Yeah, here's Dr. Praveen. Otherwise, the Faculty of Chemistry Department. Then we have Dr. Ravi, Mechanical Engineering Department from GEC Bikaner, and there is the brain behind, sharing all these links, and the IT guy. And he manages things so very nicely, very sincere, very good faculty there. And then we have Dr. Prashant Bhakar also from GEC Bikaner, if is there. Dr. Jakar, has Dr. Prashant Bhakar joined? Maybe not. Anyway, so he's another coordinator. And then we have Professor Surendra Deswal from NIT Kurukshetra. You might have met him. He's a professor in civil engineering in the environment field only.
Yeah.
So he's also one of the coordinators, this STTP. And I'm Sathans, a professor in electrical engineering at NIT, and I was the one coordinating that exercise of academic audit, in fact. So that's how I got to meet you, and I carry a wonderful impression of you as a faculty, the way you were interacting during that meeting discussions. So that's how I thought to connect you as well to this STTP. So with that, I think now I can formally initiate the proceedings. So good morning to the Honorable Speaker and to all the organizing committee members and to all the participants. We already have the speaker with us for the session. So without taking much time, I extend a very warm welcome to the eminent speaker, Professor Lizzie Philip, and to all the participants. And I invite Dr. Opri Jakar, the TechUp coordinator at GEC Bikaner, to extend a formal welcome from his side and to say a few words. Dr. Jakar, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I feel immense pleasure to formally welcome Professor Lizzie Philip from IIT Bombay.
IIT Madras.
Sorry. IIT Madras. And on behalf of organizer, and I hope her lecture will be very fruitful and beneficial for the participants, and all will enjoy her lecture. And thank you, Professor Philip, for accepting our invitation and given us your valuable time for this session. So thank you so much, and once again welcome Professor Philip, madam. And I also welcome all the participants who are connected in this session. So thank you so much. Thank you. Over to Professor Sathan for further process.
Thank you, Dr. Jakar, for extending a very warm welcome to the Honorable Speaker and to all the participants. So thank you so much. Now I go on to Dr. H.D. Chalak to kindly introduce the speaker to the participants and to us all. Dr. Chalak, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good morning to all dignitaries as well as the participants. It is my proud privilege to introduce the eminent personality, Professor Ligi Phillips of IIT Madras, being an expert of the session. The expert is a well-known academician and very good researcher. She will deliver a talk on sustainable waste management. The expert has completed a bachelor degree in civil engineering from MG University, Kottayam, Kerala, MTech and PhD from IIT Kanpur. Before joining IIT Madras in 2001, she has worked as a faculty member in IIT Kharagpur. She also worked as a senior project engineer, UNICEF sponsored project at IIT Kanpur. Her working mainly focusing on water treatment and rural water supply, domestic and industrial wastewater treatment, with focusing on wastewater reuse and recycling, bioremedials of contaminated soil, air, and water with heavy metals, pesticides, and other hazardous organic compounds. She has 129 research articles published in various journals, also having 3 research articles in proceedings of the international conferences. She has 3 book chapters published while addressed 10 different gatherings, being an expert in the area. She has completed 29 research projects funded by different government agencies and currently working on 6 research projects costing in crores, and also associated with 8 research-based consultancy projects with government and private agencies. She provides consultancy services in the domain area to various government and private agencies. She has guided number of PhD and MTech students and currently providing guidance for postdoctorate fellows as well as PhD scholars. She is working as a member of review panel and member of editorial boards of various journals. So I welcome once again being a coordinator of this short-term program. I welcome Ligi Phillips, ma'am, and I request Professor Satans to proceed further.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chalak, for doing this honor of introducing the very eminent personality, very right, in fact, and we feel really privileged to have Madam Philip with us to engage the participants in this session. Thank you, Professor Philip, and welcome once again. And with that, I go on to Professor Philip only to start her session. Madam, now you can start your session, please. Thank you so much.
Good morning to one and all, and thank you very much for all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. So I'll straight away get into my topic. I'll share my screen. Hope my
yes, visible, ma'am. Perfectly fine.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just start off. Okay, and I'll be talking about sustainable waste management, and I will explain a few examples or a few work carried out by our group. So, okay, before going into the waste management, we will see what is the present status of our water and waste management in India and elsewhere. So, when we talk about water, okay, the world is facing water scarcity. And if you look into the freshwater reserves, we can see that around 97.5% is salt water, and we have only 2.5% freshwater. And this fresh, if you see the distribution, you can see that around 68.7 is in glaciers and 30% is in groundwater, and surface water is only 0.4. And you know that all the glacier water and a part of the groundwater and permafrost water is not available. So, okay, the available water sources is very, very limited. And if you see the distribution of water resources in the world, that is also not even. Okay, so see the North and Central America. Here, okay, the blue color shows the water reserve, and Okay, this gray color shows the population. So 8% population and 15% of the water. And South America, okay, the population is very less, 6% and 26% of the water. And when we come to Asia, you can see that around 60% of the population and only 36% of the water resources. So, okay, among all the continents, Asia is facing maximum problem with, okay, water scarcity. So if you see the annual freshwater withdrawal in 2013-16, you can see that the maximum withdrawal is also happening in this area, okay, the Asian region, because the population is maximum. So naturally the water requirement is also high, and America is also not that bad. Okay, you can see here. And if you see the water distribution, okay, or the water usage pattern, maximum water is being used for agricultural purpose, then for domestic, and then come to the industry. Okay, and wastewater generation in India is around 13.87 billion meter cube per year, and okay, and around 6 billion people will suffer from clean water scarcity by 2050. This is the UN prediction. Okay, and when we talk about the sanitation, inadequate sanitation is a major problem in developing nations. Improper wastewater and solid waste management, we all know that. And total sanitation coverage in India is around 30.7% in rural area and 81.4% in urban area. And major part of the country is not yet provided with sewerage connection. If you do, okay, it is okay, less than 14% of the household which is having sewer connection. Depends on the on-site sanitation systems in rural India, around 36.8% is depending on on-site sanitation system, and in urban India it is around 10.8%. And open defecation is still prevalent. Okay, lot of reduction is there because of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and all the things. Still there are problems. And okay, this is the sanitation pattern in India. Okay, this is okay, little old data. Okay, but you can see that, okay, this is a percentage of household having water closet in India. This is 2011 and 21 data. Okay, you can see that, okay, total is around 36.4% is having. What I am trying to tell is, okay, the sanitation scenario is not that great even now. Okay, and when we talk about fecal floods, this is another important problem we have to address. Okay, we have, okay, as I told you, okay, we have the sewer connection in only 12 to 14%. So many of the households, or most of the households, are depending upon on-site sanitation systems. So all these sanitation systems will be generating fecal sludge. And at present, what is happening is, most of the places, they are just emptying it and throwing away wherever, okay, free land is available. Okay, only very little is getting treated, and we know that this all create lot of contamination in the ground and surface water bodies and other sanitation issues. Okay, and this is a recent document, okay, published by NITI Aayog, Indian scenario of water stress and wastewater treatment. So according to, okay, NITI Aayog, okay, they have told that, okay, many of the Indian cities are having extreme, okay, risk with respect to water stress in this. Okay, this risk is analyzed based upon the availability of water and the quality of water. So you can see that many of the major cities like Agra, Jaipur, Chennai, Ahmedabad, Lucknow, Hyderabad, Nasik, Delhi, Indore, Bangalore, Kanpur, all these things are coming under high risk category. Only Calcutta is relatively low risk, okay, because they have a lot of water resources available. Okay, and when we look into the wastewater treatment, okay, in class 1 cities, okay, around 498 of them, the sewage generation is around, okay, 35,558 million liters per day, and the treatment is happening only, okay, 32%. And in class 2 cities, the treatment is happening only 8%, and class 1 and class 2 cities together, the total wastewater treatment is 30%. That means 70% of the wastewater generated is going okay, untreated, okay, into the water bodies or nearby land. Okay, and this 30% whatever is getting treated also is only partially getting treated because the nutrient removal and all is not happening in many of the existing treatment plants. So if you see the pharmaceutical and nutrient distribution all over the world, okay, the blue color shows the pharmaceutical compounds distribution, and this red green, okay, this one shows the nutrient risk indicator to marine ecosystems. And you can see that, okay, in India, China, all these places, all the water sources are having, okay, many pharmaceutically active compounds. Where is it coming from? Okay, because our wastewater, more than 70% is going untreated. So when we consume some, okay, medicine, okay, only a percentage of that one will be getting absorbed in our body. Remaining is getting, okay, excreted through the feces or urine. So if you are not treating the wastewater properly, or is not treating at all these pharmaceutical compounds will be getting into our water bodies or water environment. And what is the problem? One is, okay, they themselves can be toxic, and the second and the most important, okay, problem is when the microorganisms comes in contact with, okay, these pharmaceutically active compounds, they, okay, generate, okay, resistance. Okay, so antimicrobial antibiotic resistance genes will be, okay, generated in the microorganisms, and once these microorganisms have those genes and they, okay, cause some diseases, okay, the existing antibiotics will not be able to tackle the disease. Okay, so that is a major problem, and now, okay, lot of, okay, emphasis has given to monitor this antibiotic presence in the water environment and how to, okay, remediate that one and how to treat and all the things. Lot of research is going on all over the world. And now coming to the nutrient, you can see that, okay, this India, okay, the ocean near India, China, etc. are having highest nutrient risk. The reason is here majority of the wastewater is, okay, just letting into the ocean without any treatment, and you know the wastewater is having lot of nutrients along with organic matter and pathogens. Okay, so these nutrients, okay, when it get into the sea or ocean, okay, eutrophication and other problems will be caused. Okay, similarly we can see in Africa, South America, etc. there also patches of high risk points are existing. And if you see the global household water consumption distribution, okay, it's reported that around 20% of the water, okay, this is, okay, based upon 150 liters per capita per day. Okay, 20% is being used for, okay, shower, 24 for toilet, okay, dishwashing, okay, bathing and others. Okay, and we are losing around 12% of water through leaks, and cloth washing around 17%, okay, like that. Okay, this is the global household water consumption. Now we'll see what are we doing presently, okay, for the wastewater treatment. Okay, majority of the cities are practicing centralized wastewater treatment system. So what is happening? The city is supplying the water to all the households, okay, and whatever the wastewater generated in the household, everything is getting collected to sewer lines and take to a, okay, wastewater treatment plant which is located far away from the point of generation, and they treat it, and the treated or partially treated wastewater is discharged. So this is the centralized wastewater treatment system, and many of the existing, okay, facilities are following this centralized treatment system. Nowadays, decentralized wastewater treatment systems are also coming up. Here what is happening? Okay, you take a small area or a institute, okay, like NIT Kurukshetra or whatever bigger thing. So wherever the wastewater is generated, okay, you collect everything and treat within the institutional area or within that locality, okay, okay, with the small treatment plants and all. So once you treat like this, okay, the treated water is available near to you, so the reuse, okay, reuse is much easier. Then in India, as I was talking earlier, many places we are going for on-site treatment systems, and many of these on-site treatment systems are not designed properly or, okay, executed properly. So septic tanks, single pit latrines, double pit latrines, sock pits, all these things are coming under on-site treatment systems. There are some other systems also available in on-site treatment. Package units are available, which work well. But it is not very common in India. So another concept is recycle within the same system. So this is a sustainable approach. Whatever wastewater we generate in a house, is it possible to recycle within the house, and whether we can develop a house with zero liquid discharge? So that is the concept people are looking into nowadays. Now, as I told, the current wastewater treatment practice is generation, collection, treatment, disposal, and reuse and recovery is not happening. So definitely it is not a sustainable system. Sustainable system means we have to recycle within the the system should be a closed loop one, not an open loop one. So we talk about circular economy, and this is very much applicable for waste management, whether it is solid waste or liquid waste. This closed loop or circular economy is very, very important for a sustainable system. So there is a paradigm shift existing, and it is essential. In the past, wastewater or waste is considered as a problem. Now it is considered as a resource. And I keep telling there are many examples. The new water scheme in Singapore, because Singapore, most of the wastewater generated is getting recycled. They are treating it, put it into their rivers and to reservoir. From there, they are taking back, treating and giving us fresh water. And Israel is another country where more than 80% of the wastewater is getting recycled. So each drop of water goes at least 3 cycles of use before it is let it into the sea. And in India also, many industries are recycling the wastewater, and zero liquid discharge norm is therefore major industries, because they cannot discharge any water. Whatever the wastewater they are generating, they have to treat it and reuse within the industry. These things are coming up much better than nowadays in India. So what is the advantage of recycling the wastewater? Here I am talking just about the domestic wastewater. You know that we need the nutrients like potassium, phosphorus, nitrogen, etc. for our agricultural purposes and all. So if you recycle the wastewater or recover the nutrients from the wastewater and reuse, you will be able to recover around 16.6 Tg of nitrogen, 3 Tg of phosphorus, and 6 Tg of potassium. And % global fertilizer nutrient demand, we can meet around 14.4% of nitrogen, 6.8% of phosphorus, and 18.6% of potassium by recycling the wastewater, because we know that all these resources are getting exploited. And potential revenue generation is also very high. So when this type of a scope is there, why people are not going for that one? And if you recycle the water from the domestic wastewater, and it is equivalent to 75% of the projected industrial demand in 2025. That means the domestic water supply, if we can treat it and bring it to a stage, where it can be recycled, then 75% of the industrial requirement can be met by that one. So the sanitation scheme in the future, it should be a closed loop. Presently it is a linear loop. You can see that everything is we are getting the fertilizers, we are cultivating whatever the agricultural products are there, bringing to the city or the towns, consuming, and whatever the wastewater is generated, partially getting treated, or majority is getting is not getting treated. Everything is getting discharged into the river, and it is affecting the health of the river and aquatic organisms. And whatever the sludge is coming, mostly it is dumped in the landfill. It is contaminating the groundwater. Very little is in the agriculture purpose. So a sustainable sanitation system means this closed loop. You take the water from the river, use it for all the purposes, okay, and agriculture, etc. And you'll be having the wastewater. You treat the wastewater properly to the standards prescribed and reuse it for all the purposes as much as possible. Similarly, the sludge, whatever is generated, process it properly so that it can be used as a fertilizer, and okay, whatever the leftover water which is of good quality, okay, to discharge into the river, okay, so that can be used for maintaining the water flow in the river. So the river health will be maintained, and okay, the fresh water withdrawal will be reduced significantly. So this is a sustainable, okay, waste management system. So okay, before going into the example, I'll just discuss one or two slides, a few slides on sustainability and how can we assess whether your system is a sustainable one or not. So by definition, sustainability is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Okay, so it has a multi-dimensional character. Okay, you have to look into social benefit, you have to look into economic viability, and you have to look into environmental sensitivity. So these are the three major pillars of sustainability. So you have to consider all these three aspects when we talk about, okay, sustainable systems. Okay, so when we talk about economic sustainability, the system should be able to pay for itself. Okay, that means cost should be less than benefit, and human well-being through optimal allocation of scarce resources. Okay, this is another thing we have to look into. All resources should be included. Financial cost and benefits only is usually considered. Okay, that is not the right thing. We have to look into social impact and environmental impact, because if you have a water supply system and if you generate the wastewater and if it is not treated, definitely it is having a lot of environmental impact and social impact. Okay, most of the time we look into the financial cost and assess whether the project is economical or not. Okay, so that is not the right way to look into. Then when we talk about environmental aspects, okay, we have to look for long-term viability. Okay, that include containment of resources depletion, controlling the emissions, then protection and efficient utilization of resources. Okay, and environmental sustainability means ability of the environment to sustain the human ways of life. Then we also look how to look into ethical aspects. Okay, don't go for anthropocentric policies. That means, okay, assume that all the resources are only for human beings. Okay, all other, okay, creatures or living beings are not important. That is anthropocentric policies. Don't go for anthropocentric, okay, policies. We have to, okay, look into the nature's carrying capacity. If nature's, okay, we are exceeding the nature's carrying capacity, definitely it will be having a long-term adverse effect. And public policies mostly look into tangible benefits and costs. We have to consider the intangible cost and benefits, okay, when we talk about environmental aspects. And when it comes to social and cultural aspects, okay, to secure people's social, cultural, and spiritual needs. Okay, when we talk about water, in India, water is more than water. Okay, because we give much more importance to water. Okay, because religious, cultural, whatnot. Okay, for example, River Ganga, it is a river, but we know that, okay, River Ganga is having much more, okay, place in all Indian heart. And when we come up with some, okay, systems, okay, we have to look into the social stigma, psychological inhibitions, etc. Because technically you think that, yeah, it is going to work and all the things, but okay, societal acceptance or people's acceptance is necessary, okay, when we develop some system. Otherwise it will not be successful at all. So sustainable technology, how can we select? Okay, we have to look into, we have to do the exergy analysis. That means total energy, input, output, system energy, etc. Economic analysis we have to carry out. Life cycle analysis we have to carry out. Then general systems analysis, including material use, emission cost, required land area, etc. So unless we consider all these things, we cannot tell that as a technology or a project is sustainable or not. Okay, I am not going into the details of calculation and all. So now I'll get into some of the examples. Yeah, so this is sustainability assessment using indicators. There are many indicators. Okay, you can look into the literature. Okay, functional indicator, that means minimal requirement, adaptability, durability, robustness, O&M, reliability. All these things are coming under functional indicators. Many of the systems we consider this one. And economic indicators, capital, operation and maintenance cost, affordability, effectiveness, labor cost, etc. Environmental indicators, optimal resource utilization, emissions, other environmental damages, and social and cultural indicators, institutional requirement, acceptance, expertise, stimulation of sustainable behavior, etc. So there are many indicators are available. So you have to work out this one and look into the sustainability aspects. So now I'll get into a few examples of closed loop waste management developed by our group. First, I will discuss what we do at IIT Madras. This I have presented in many forums. Okay, so I thought that okay, this will be useful for this group of people also. So this is the basic information about IIT Madras. A total population of around 15,000 inhabitants and around 3,000 floating population, and projected population is around 20,000 for next 5 years. Present water consumption is around 3.2 million liters per day, and projected is around 4 million liters per day. At present, wastewater generated is 2.8 million liters per day. So what we do? Okay, nothing. Okay, great. Okay, we have constructed a state of the art wastewater treatment system. Okay, it is a sequential batch reactor based technology. So it's a 4MLD sewage treatment plant. Okay, so this is the biological treatment, and you know that SBR technology relatively provides relatively good quality treated effluent. The BOD will be less than 10 most of the time. So we didn't stop at that time. Okay, and after that one we have put the ultrafiltration unit, because Chennai has lot of water problems, so we wanted to reuse the water. So we have an ultrafiltration unit. Then we have an ozonator. So these are the tertiary treatment system. And what we are doing is we have complete recycling system. In the entire campus we have dual pipeline. All the toilets are connected with this water supply, the treated wastewater. Nothing great. And all our air conditioning, cooling water is using the treated wastewater. And for all horticulture purpose, we are using this treated water, because we are not using a single drop of fresh water for any toilet flushing, horticulture, even during the COVID time I'm talking about. And whatever the sludge is generated, because this SBR is designed to work under extended aeration process. So the sludge generated is mostly stabilized sludge. So we have a centrifuge. So we get dewatered sludge. We try it further, and this this is the one. And along with this one, we do little bit of composting with the solid waste generated in the campus, organic waste generated in the campus, and this is the one we are using for fertilizer in our campus for all the horticulture purpose. So now what we are doing is the secondary treated water after ultrafiltration and ozonation, we are storing and supplying to all the toilets and all secondary users. Then some water we are storing in a pond for the flora and fauna enhancement. This one will be enhancing the water percolation also to some extent. And then what we are doing is because when we talk about toilet flushing, air conditioning and all, maybe around 70 to 80% of the water, or 60 to 70% water will be required, but still we have leftover treated water. So what we are doing is we have a filtration well. This has around 2 meter deep sand bed. And you can see that perforated collection systems and all. And after this one we have a long infiltration gallery after the filtration well. So the water after the filtration well get into the infiltration gallery, and it slowly reaches the lake. We have a big lake in our campus. This lake collects all the rainwater, water is falling in our campus, along with the leftover treated wastewater after all the treatment. Then what we are doing is, okay, we have put up a water treatment plant here. Okay, so the water treatment plant can treat around 0.8 MLD per MLD, 8 lakh liters per day. So we take this water from this lake, again give the treatment. Okay, that means, okay, direct filtration, adsorption and disinfection again. And this water is blended with our water supply system. Okay, whatever the water we are getting from the Chennai Metropolitan Water Supply System, along with that one we are using this water also and supplying for the thing. So I'll show you the cost analysis. The total cost of the STP was around 10 crore, and grey water pipeline, okay, throughout the campus it costed around 6 crore. But okay, if you look into the economic benefit, tangible economic cost itself, more than 2.5 crores savings of water bill per year. Okay, because Chennai we have to pay 60 rupees per meter cube of water. Okay, so when we get this much of water through recycled system, okay, that much of water, okay, less water we are buying from the CMW SSB. So every year we are saving around 2.5 crore on water bill. This is tangible benefit. And intangible benefit, okay, we are not taking out any water from the ground. And last year when there was a severe drought, our campus didn't have any problem because we had this recycled water that was meeting more than our 60 to 70% requirement. So we didn't have any problem. So what I am trying to tell is economic benefits are there, okay, and lot of intangible benefits are there. And okay, we have looked into the cost benefit analysis based upon the capacity, what type of a plant, okay, will be economical. If you go for very small plants, it may not be that economic. All those things we have looked into, okay. And what is the impact, okay, by seeing our plan, Chennai Metro and Sewerage Board is planning to recycle the water for domestic supply. Already industries are using the recycled water. Already 2 number of 10 MLD plant is under construction. It is almost getting over. Planning to put up another 260 MLD recycling system. And IIT Madras, okay, is providing all the technical advice for all these projects. Okay, so that's it. Because if you do something good and it is sustainable and people see the good points of that one, definitely, okay, we don't even have to go and publicize it. Okay, people come to know and it will be multiplying. Okay, so that is a good thing of this one. So now I'll talk about other systems, integrated water management, whether we can have a zero liquid discharge form, or how can we minimize the freshwater utilization in any household. Okay, so okay, when we talk about sustainability, it should be reliable and cost effective. Social acceptance should be there. Less demand on resources should be there. Closed loop, as far as possible, we have to consider. So this is a household wastewater closed loop management, what we talk about always. Okay, so if you take a 150 liter water, okay, per person per day, okay, we use the water, okay, for drinking, cooking, bathing, laundry, non-recycled toilet, okay, all those things. So when we talk about different users, okay, very good quality water is needed for drinking and drinking, cooking and dishwashing. Okay, we cannot take any risk there. Okay, because okay, we are dealing with people and the health is very, very important. Okay, then when it come to bathing and laundry, yeah, good quality is enough. Okay, for washing the floors and other things, okay, moderate quality will be sufficient. When it comes to toilet flushing, we don't have to use drinking water quality. The quality can be poor. Poor means there should not be any pathogens. Okay, because when you use a recycled water and if it is having pathogens or pathogens, when you do the flushing, aerosols will be generated. That aerosols can have the pathogens and it will be creating problems. So we have to see that whatever the water we are using for toilet flushing, it is free from pathogens. That is one thing, and it should not contain large quantity of organic matter. The reason is, if the organic matter is there, once you store it in the flush tank, okay, the microbial degradation will start, and again all the nuisance will be created. So we have to see that organic matter concentration is very less. and regrowth of microorganisms will not be happening. So these are the things we have to look into toilet flushing. If some chemicals are present or anything, we don't have to bother that much. Okay. So if this is the water reuse, is it possible to recycle this bathroom and laundry water without mixing it with the toilet water, treat it and recycle it for bathing and laundry purpose? Because once it is mixed with toilet, people always have a inhibition whether I can it is shit water, how can I use it for the things. So the psychological aspect of human beings is very important. So that's why we are proposing, why can't we take this cooking, drinking, whatever the thing, take that one, and recycle this one within this one, and whatever is coming from cooking, because the kitchen wastewater will be having lot of organic matter, oil, and other things. So the treating that water is slightly difficult. So take that water and whatever the leftover water after treatment coming from here and the toilet water together, treat it, use it for toilet flushing and non-recyclable purposes. Once we use this one, we'll be able to reduce the water requirement to around 20 to 50 liters per capita per day. So this is what we are proposing. And I told you, wastewater recycling, people have a psychological inhibition, but knowingly or unknowingly, all of us are using somebody else's wastewater without much treatment, because most of the places the water source is the river, and we have seen that less than 30% of the wastewater generated in India is getting treated. So whatever the wastewater generated in the upstream cities are getting discharged into the water bodies, and that water along with the river water is coming to the downstream cities. There we are happily taking that water. Many places give some conventional treatment, and some places it is chlorination and supply, and that water we don't have any problem in using. But when we recycle our own wastewater and make sure that the quality is as good or better than the drinking water, people have the psychological inhibition. So that is what is the condition now. So now, so what we have done is, we wanted to do an extensive study. So we have looked into different economic classes of people in IIT campus, what is their water consumption for each purpose, how they are using the water and all. We have complete data, and we have published papers also in that one. So water availability varies depending upon the economic status of the house, because as per government rule based upon the square feet area of the house, the water tank capacity also varies. So that is what is happening here. So if you see the water consumption pattern, this is India, Chennai, because Chennai is a means weather is very hot. So maximum water is being used bathing purpose, then toilet flushing, and other things you can see what purpose it is being used. Now the generation of organics household wise, so B type, C type, D type, E type, G type, these are the government type of waters. So you can see that depending upon the household type and all, the organic load is varying. From bathroom water, laundry water, kitchen water. The axis also you see here it is 200, 400. Here it is 500, 1000, because kitchen water is having much more organic load. Compared to bathroom and laundry water. Laundry water is relatively clean. So the treatment is much easier. And we also looked into microbial contamination from sources and household. Tap water doesn't have anything. Bathroom water is having some total coliforms and fecal coliforms. Laundry water is having, and kitchen water, sometimes we could see wherever they are using non-vegetarian and all, some fecal contamination we could see in the kitchen water also. And the contamination also varies depending upon the households and the age group of the people there. Wherever very old people and very young people are there, the fecal coliform present in bathroom water, laundry water and all are high. And another important thing we have to look into is when we talk about the bathroom water, laundry water and all are the presence of surfactants from surfactants. Kitchen, bathroom, laundry, everything is having high amount of surfactants because we use okay, different types of detergents for various purposes. So naturally, it will be coming out the water. And we also have looked into, okay, very emerging contaminants, okay, emerging contaminants like personal care products and pharmaceuticals. And we could see that around 78 different organic compounds were identified. Okay, bathroom wastewater, high number of fragrances and flavors, followed by pharmaceuticals. Okay, so okay, what we have seen, I have summarized here. Okay, softeners, pharmaceuticals, preservatives, okay, fragrances, emulsifiers, surfactants, okay, dyes, all those things are coming in the water. So when we develop some treatment system, it should be able to, okay, remove all these contaminants. Otherwise, okay, when we recycle the water, okay, there will be a lot of risk and it will be creating a lot of other problems. So after analyzing all those things, okay, we thought that, okay, we'll have a treatment scheme. So this is the grey water treatment system we have proposed. Grey water means, okay, water from bathroom as well as the laundry. So coagulation, flocculation, okay, and settling, followed by ultrafiltration, because after coagulation, flocculation and settling, still some, okay, dispersed flocks will be there. So we have to have an absorption. So after this treatment, this can be used for, okay, toilet flushing, gardening, okay, floor washing, because the water is, okay, relatively clean. Okay, but if you want to go for bathing, okay, we have to see the risk associated with the compounds which when it comes in contact with the skin. So most of these emerging contaminants have some risk. So we have to remove all these emerging contaminants. So we thought that adsorption system may be a better option. But the most commonly used adsorbents, the activated carbon is not capable of removing all type of compounds, because you will be having both hydrophilic and hydrophobic compounds present in the system. So we have to have some adsorbent which is able to remove all type of compounds. So we have to tailor make the adsorbent. So this is a sustainable treatment and reuse. Okay, so you have this one, okay, bathroom water and, okay, wash basin water, and this one you collect it, treat it, and use it for flushing and, okay, even for bathing. So this is the concept we have employed. So this is coagulation flocculation unit, ultrafiltration unit, okay, and adsorption. So whatever the sludge coming, it will be going to the drains, to the toilet water. So there it will be getting treated, and after adsorption, water will be going for bathing. So ultrafiltration, we have used the available PES membrane. Okay, but what we have seen is the flux was reducing significantly and all the things. So we have, okay, modified the thing with silica. Okay, we coated with silica and we have doped silica membrane and we modified the PES membrane. And you can see that by modifying, okay, the removal efficiency has significantly improved, and even the water recovery is significantly improved. So, okay, depending upon the use, okay, we have to use, okay, depending upon the use, we have to select appropriate membranes, or whatever the available membranes you have to modify to, okay, increase the efficiency and all the things. So this is what one we have done. And adsorbent, okay, I told you activated carbon alone will not be working, because that is good for hydrophobic substances, hydrophilic substances it will not be good. So what done, we have made a we have synthesized a tailor-made adsorbent. It is, okay, graphene oxide, okay, and activated carbon and chitosan, okay, and we also added some iron particles. Okay, so this is a composite adsorbent. That is what we have used for the adsorption purpose. Okay, it can take up both hydrophilic and hydrophobic compounds. So this is overall performance of adsorbents. Okay, and this is the recycling system. What we have proposed is collect all the water after the toilet. If it is a flat, okay, you can collect all the water in the next sunshade. Okay, you put a tank and collect it there, and put a tank above the toilet where you have some space, and pump it to there, and your treatment system will be there, and from there the treated water will be coming, and it can be used for, okay, toilet flushing, okay, or even for bathing, depending upon the requirement. Okay, so this is the pilot scale recycling unit we have. This is the collection unit, okay, and coagulation, flocculation, ultrafiltration, okay, and this is activated carbon adsorption system and all, okay, and we also have developed in-house, okay, online monitoring systems like turbidity, TDS, pH, etc. to see that the treated water is meeting all the required quality. So that's why we have the online monitoring system also. So you can see that, okay, you don't have any mechanical devices or anything for the coagulation, flocculation. The systems are designed in such a way that the water, okay, pumping pressure itself will be sufficient to provide enough mixing, etc. Okay, and you can see that the treated water quality, okay, such a good quality, it is as good or better than the tap water, whatever we get for, okay, bathing and all. Okay, so this is one system. Another one, okay, this is bathroom water and, okay, wash basin, washing machine water together. So another thing we have developed is the washing machine itself, whether we can recycle the water, because when we have conducted a survey among various people told that they don't have any inhibition if you can recycle the water within the washing machine. So that's what we have done here. So this is our model system, and already we have signed some NTA with, okay, some, okay, washing machine manufacturers, and the prototype is ready and all the things. Here also, it is a combination of coagulation, flocculation, filtration, and you can see that rinse 1, rinse 2, and rinse 3 water. After the treatment, you can see that the water is as good as the tap water. Okay, so this is another zero liquid discharge system, whether we can have a toilet which doesn't need any water and which will not be generating any waste. Okay, so that is what another thing we have developed. Okay, again a closed loop system. So here what we are doing is, okay, whatever the waste coming to the toilet, okay, you put a separator, the liquid and the solid will be getting separated. The liquid, okay, it is a flushing water plus the urine and all the things, okay, you take it and, okay, go for distillation, okay, using solar, vacuum solar system, and whatever the solids coming, okay, use a screw pump, take it to a solar dryer and try it. Okay, when you try it at above 100 plus degrees centigrade, all the pathogens will be getting, okay, killed, and you will be getting a sterilized solid which is rich in all the nutrients. So that is what we have done. Okay, so you can see that the quality of the treated water. Okay, see, this is the thing, and this is the separated water, and you will be having some around 15 to 20% reject. This one can be mixed with the solid and try it, so you will be having very high, okay, nutrient. Hello. Okay, so we have
participants may please keep the mic mute, so otherwise it will disturb the speaker unnecessarily. So all participants may please check that the mic remains in the mute position till the time the speaker is talking. Then after, at the end, we'll take your questions if at all any, right? Thank you, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So, okay, after doing lot of lab scale and pilot scale studies, okay, we have, okay, put up a, okay, system in our hostels. Okay, this is the toilet, and, okay, this is the solar systems and all, okay, and it is working. Okay, we are getting all the things and no waste coming out of that one, and we don't have to provide any water, because whatever the water generated in the toilet is getting recycled, and the quality, because it is distilled water, it can be used not only for flushing, even for washing we can use the same water, and whatever the solid coming out can be used as a soil conditioner or a fertilizer, because it is a sterilized solid. So this is the solar dried feces. Okay, we did the elemental analysis and pathogenic analysis, other things. Okay, and we also looked into what is our CO2 net CO2 mitigation effect and treatment cost in the distiller and dryer. You can see that the cost is coming around, okay, 1.45 rupees per liter, and for the solid it is around 3.13 rupees per kg. Yes, okay, it is slightly costlier than the conventional treatment system, but these things will be good for any place, remote places or tourist places where accessibility is difficult and you wanted to have a better system. This type of toilets can be used. Okay, so I'm not going into the summary. So another thing we have done is sustainable solar powered wastewater treatment system to improve hygiene and sanitation in schools by adopting recycling and online quality monitoring. But when we talk about schools, okay, especially the the states like Tamil Nadu, where the water scarcity is there, many schools, students are not able to use the toilet because of the non-availability of water. So if we can have a proper recycling system and make sure that the quality of treated water is good, okay, then we can adopt this system. So that was our purpose. So what we have done is, okay, not rocket science. Okay, we have a modified septic tank. And when we talk about the wastewater generated from schools and institutions, it is difficult to treat compared to domestic wastewater. People think that school water is easy because there is no feces, but it is the other way because mostly it is containing urine and the organic content is very less. So it is very difficult to remove the nutrients from the water because the C/N ratio is very, very small. So we have to do some manipulation in the treatment. So that's what we have done. So we have a modified septic tank and only a part of the wastewater goes to the septic tank. So majority of the treatment, organic matter removal takes place here. Then, okay, this water comes to a attached growth aerobic system. And here, okay, we didn't want to have any power supply problems and all. So entire system we use solar power, and solar power also we didn't use any battery to store the power. So the aeration will work only when the solar power is there. That means morning 9 o'clock to evening 4 o'clock. So during that period, what will happen? Whatever the water coming out of the septic tank comes here, and the ammonia and remaining organic matter will be getting oxidized to nitrate and carbon dioxide. And during the non-aeration time, what we do is after 4 o'clock, we have a timer here. The remaining water what didn't go to the septic tank comes to this tank, and there is no aeration. So what happens? Anoxidation prevails, and you have enough organic matter. So your denitrification happens here. So without much the design modification, we can achieve nitrification and denitrification in this system. And after this one, you have a filtration unit and a disinfection system. Okay, so that is what the system we have developed. And here, okay, we have our own sensors. Okay, because measuring COD, BOD, nitrate, etc. are very, very difficult. So what we have done, we thought that by measuring the color, turbidity, and oxidation reduction potential, and correlate it with BOD, COD, and other, okay, we will be able to get a calibration curve, and that one will tell whether your treated water is in the standard or not. Okay, so we developed our own sensor. Okay, this is a lab scale sensor. Okay, and this, okay, and once we did that one, okay, we did the pilot scale studies. Can you please mute the mic? Okay, the pilot scale studies we have done. Okay, so pilot scale, and after that one we have taken into the field. Okay, this is a schematic of the field unit. Modified septic tank, submerged attached biological filter, then tank, rapid sun filter. Then these are the solar panels. Then sensor will tell whether it is meeting the quality or not. If it is meeting the quality, the pump will be pumping it to the overhead tank. If it is not meeting, it will be going to the soft pit. So this is the way we have developed the system. Okay, and this is in KV school. Okay, more than 1,000 students. Okay, school. Okay, so this is the, and the area required is equivalent to a septic tank. Okay, so your anaerobic system and the aerobic system will be underground. Okay, and other things will be and this is your control system and the sensors and all the things. Okay, so this is the system, and it is working for last 2 years without any problem. Okay, and this is the components of the system. the online sensor, whatever we have put it in the field, and this is the solar panels. Okay, and you see the outlet quality, COD around 308, it is coming down to 90, total nitrogen. Okay, everything is meeting the discharge standards, nitrite, TSS, stability, fecal coliform, total coliform, etc. Now, what I'm trying to tell is, okay, if you think, okay, we'll be able to come up with very good solutions, sustainable solutions, which doesn't need much of operation and maintenance, much, okay, sophisticated systems and all the things. This is another example. So till now we were talking about domestic wastewater. So we will discuss a little bit about industrial wastewater treatment. Okay, whether we can make sustainable way. Okay, we can treat the industrial wastewater. So I'm just giving an example of a industrial wastewater. Okay, we have taken textile wastewater and used electrocoagulation flotation process. Okay, what we have done, I'll just explain. Okay, we know that industrial wastewater, okay, is a major problem. Okay, around 5.5 to 10% of the total water is used by industry, and they generate large quantity of water, wastewater. This is Indian condition, and global scenario is also not very good. Even in Germany, okay, around 134 industries releasing wastewater directly to water bodies. Bangladesh, Europe, North America, everywhere, this is a problem. And India generates around 83,000 plus MLD wastewater from all major industries. Okay, so this is the condition, and this is a common site anywhere in India when we go. Okay, and if you come to textile industry, 14% of the industrial production and 12% of the total manufacturing export earning is from textile. Textile industry in India use around 830 million meter cube per year, and wastewater discharges around 640 million meter cube per year. Okay, and lot of dyes are coming out. Okay, around 10 to 15% of the dyes are directly dosed into the industrial wastewater. Most of these dyes are toxic, mutagenic, and carcinogenic, and extremely recalcitrant. Okay, so and what are the common treatment systems adopted? Okay, many places they go for biological treatment because some organic matter will be there. Then physical, chemical process, absorption, precipitation. Okay, all the primary treatment they do, then go for membrane because many of the textile industries have to achieve ISRLD, and it become very, very costly. Then some industries are using advanced oxidation process for the removal of dyes. Okay, because biological process is not capable of removing all the dyes, and precipitation and all generates a lot of sludge, and sludge management is a major problem. So advanced oxidation processes are like UV and hydrogen peroxide, photophenone, phenone, ozonation, sonolysis. All those things are being used, and nowadays people are trying plasma, electron beam, microwave. Okay, many okay new technologies are being tried. Okay, so what we thought is, okay, we'll take the age-old electrocoagulation flotation method, and nowadays it is not being used very extensively. The reason is electrocoagulation flotation, electrode passivation is a major problem because you have to keep on replacing the anode, and okay, cathode will be getting passivated, so your process efficiency will be reducing drastically. So if you see the process, this is what is happening in anode. Electrode is happening, or oxidation at anode, the metal is getting oxidized to metal ion, and in the cathode reduction is happening. Okay, so okay, the major reaction is water is getting converted to hydrogen gas and hydroxide ion. So this metal hydroxide forms the coagulant, and this H2 gas will be generated, that will be helping in the flotation. So okay, the coagulation is there, flotation is there, electrocoagulation, electroflotation, and okay, this system you will be having electrocoagulation and flotation together happening when we apply some voltage. So this is what electrocoagulation flotation system. So mechanism, okay, oxidation, organic matter will be getting oxidized some amount, carbon dioxide and chlorine. Then okay, entrapment, okay, the mechanisms of okay, dye removal, some entrapment, adsorption, charge neutralization, compensation, oxidation, all those things are happening. Advantages: no chemicals are required, no chance of secondary pollution, gas bubbles facilitate electroflotation, smallest colloidal removal since the current mass pollution faster and facilitate coagulation. Okay, many advantages are there, but limitations: regular replacement of sacrificial electrode, electricity is not abundant, operating cost is expensive, sludge production, all these things are disadvantages. So we did a lot of work. I'm not going into the details. So this is the electrode system, conventional, okay, 246 electrode system we have used. And okay, so this is the conventional system. The electrode is stationary, and they'll be having series of electrodes, and okay, some are cathode and some are anode. Cathode will be undergoing in cathode, reduction is happening, and anode is the sacrificial electrode or oxidation is happening. That is a conventional system. Okay, so what we have done is, okay, how can we reduce the passivation? So imagine, okay, you have two stationary systems and one, all the things are coming and getting accumulated. So if you make that one move or rotate, okay, the chances of passivation will be less. So what we have done is, we have designed a new reactor, novel rotating biodisk system. Okay, and another thing we have used is, okay, we have lot of construction waste, okay, getting generated, and it will be having all type of metals, aluminum, iron, and all. So why should we go for costly anodic, okay, anode and cathode, okay, using fresh metal? Why can't we use this construction, okay, waste as the metal? So that is what we have used: aluminum scrap and iron scrap metal. We have iron scrap we have used as electrodes. Okay, so two modifications we have done. One is make it as a rotating thing so that cathode passivation can be reduced significantly, and second one is use waste as the material, so the cost can be reduced significantly. So then we have taken actual industrial wastewater, because okay, if you do the synthetic wastewater and come up and tell that okay, it is working very well, okay, we know that okay, there are many other factors which will be hindering the performance in the actual field. So we have taken actual synthetic textile wastewater and did the studies and all, and we were concentrating on okay 4 different dyes, okay, because many industries are using different dyes. So we thought that we'll take a mixture of dyes and all the things. So you can see that the color is getting removed, and this is a I am not going into the details. See, this is okay before treatment, okay, electrode passivation I wanted to see. Okay, before treatment, okay, the electrodes are so clean and neat. After treatment, you see how okay it is, everything is okay, so much of deposit is there. Okay, so one passivation is there, high energy consumption will be okay there, and poor mass transfer, all those things are there. So okay, so for the study what we did is, okay, we looked into different materials, aluminum alone, okay, aluminum and iron alone, and we could see that iron material perform better than aluminum. Then this is the rotating disc, okay, reactor. So you can see that here you have one anode, one cathode, and in between these are bipolar electrode. Okay, that means one side will be acting as cathode and another side will be acting as anode. That's what we have developed. Okay, so this is the thing: anode, middle electrode is anode, cathode, both the sides, okay, this one, and the last electrode is cathode. Single electrode, double charge. Okay, that is a bipolar electrode system, and you can see that we had a series of electrodes. Okay, so surface. This is fresh electrode, anode dissolution, and cathode deposition. We can see how it is happening. Okay, so electrode surface during rotation and non-rotation mode. This is a fresh electrode. This is non-rotating anode. You can see that okay, uneven dissolution is happening and all. This is rotating anode. Okay, more even and more material is getting dissoluted. And this is rotating cathode. It is much cleaner compared to the non-rotating cathode. Okay, so you can see that by making the rotation, the passivation can be reduced significantly. And here you can see that this is non-rotating cathode. The passivation is very, very high. Okay, this is the rotating cathode. Passivation is much less. And this is non-rotating anode. Dissolution is very less. The more the dissolution, the better the efficiency. And this is the rotating anode. You can see that the dissolution is much higher. And this is the middle anode and all. What I am trying to tell is, okay, by doing this one, okay, we can improve the efficiency significantly. And cathode activity improved the hydrogen generation, and hydrogen generation improved the flotation. So your solid liquid separation is much more effective, and more anode dissolution means more coagulants are generated in the system. So much more efficiency in removing the color. So rotating and non-rotating, you can see that, okay, within not even 2 minutes, entire color is getting removed here. Okay, non-rotating, you can see that even 2 minutes, lot of color is left over. Okay, this shows that, okay, how efficient by changing slightly the reactor systems and all the things. And even the COD removal in the rotating system was much higher compared to the non-rotating system and all. Okay, and we have also looked into what is the fate of the dye. Okay, and okay, we could see that, okay, the chloride present in the system is getting converted to chlorine and, okay, chlorine species. Okay, that is enhancing the oxidation of the species also. So we looked into the pathway and all the things. So, and cathode reusability, we have looked into how many times the cathode can be reused because the passivation is reduced. What I'm trying to tell is, if you put little mind, okay, we'll be able to use the waste generated from some other process as a raw material or a material for the treatment of the waste from other things. Okay, so these are the sustainable systems. Okay, advantage, effective mass transfer by reducing the passivation, maintaining the consistent performance for longer period, uniform transfer of coagulant matter formed by the solution of electrode through proper contact with electrolyte, protecting electrode, create turbulence, homogenize the liquid that promotes the reaction rate and decreases the reaction time. Along with adsorption and precipitation, electro-oxidation process can be enhanced by using this type of a system. So we have a lot of publications and all. So that is about the industrial thing. Okay, we have many things. I am not going into the details of that. Okay, other processes because the time limitation. So now I'll talk about little bit about the solid waste management. Earlier I was talking about the fecal. Many places it is getting generated, the septic tank, your leach pit, okay, your twin pit latrine, single pit latrine, everywhere the sludge is generated, and many times it is just, okay, emptied and disposed out of. Okay, it's a major problem. So how can we manage this fecal sludge, and okay, we can recover the resource through proper management. So process of fecal sludge we have seen earlier. I'm just bringing it again. Okay, from septic tank, pit latrines, portable toilets, aqua privy, folding tanks, pump chambers, dry toilets, okay, and unsewered public ablution blocks, everywhere the fecal sludge generation is there. So the fecal sludge or septage, a material comes out of on-site sanitation systems, not transported through a sewer, also called as fecal sludge, septic tank waste. Septage generation, the rate is around 43.8 tons per annum. Okay, and if you see the septic tank in India, many places, okay, this is the condition of the septic tank, overflowing and all. And if you see a properly designed septic tank, it is something like this. Okay, minimum 2 chambers. First chamber, all the solids will be accumulating, and it comes to the second chamber, and whatever the water comes out of the septic tank, it is not completely treated. Okay, around 50% BOD or COD will be left over, and lot of pathogens and all. So we have to have a proper drainage field. But many places this is not being practiced. Okay, we just put it into a leach pit, and if the groundwater table is high, everything is getting into the groundwater and all the things. Okay, and the sludge, whatever with respect to time, this sludge will be accumulating and, okay, occupying a significant volume of the tank. Then the tank starts, okay, overflowing. So we have to empty the septic tank. Okay, that is a septage, and we have to manage this one properly. So septage, septage management in India, total sanitation coverage is, okay, I told you, okay, and this is the conditions. Okay, many places you can see that the emptying tankers go and empty, okay, put it in some, okay, place where people are not watching, and everything is getting contaminated. and poor maintenance and disposal practices are lack of knowledge on proper technology. All these things are existing. Why septage is dangerous to the environment? Mostly let out untreated, causing aesthetic issue, contamination of water bodies, greenhouse gas emission because it is having lot of undigested organic matter. Then lot of pathogens and other emerging contaminants are present there, so it will be creating health issues. Okay, and untreated septage is, okay, many places it is being disposed into agricultural land as a nutrient, but okay, this can cause problems because it is having a lot of pathogens and all. So whoever is working in the agriculture field can contact the diseases and all the things. Okay, and greenhouse gas emission, and it is emission from urban India is around 1.15 metric tons per year. Rural India is around 3.12 metric tons per year from septage alone. Okay, and when we talk about septage, okay, is it a resource or a waste? Okay, this is very important. You can see that human excreta is having large quantity of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, etc. So instead of considering it as a waste, if we can process it properly, it will be a very good manure. So that's what we were looking into. So we have done a lot of work. I'll go quickly. So what was happening is, okay, when we wanted to do the work, we were looking into the septage quality or characteristics for India, and we could not see a single document on that one. So what we have done is we have collected some 200 plus samples from Chennai city to get an idea about what is the characteristics of the septage. Without knowing the characteristics, we will not be able to design the treatment system. So okay, these are the locations where we have collected the septage samples, and okay, we have collected in 2 seasons, okay, because okay, to see how the seasonal variation is happening and all. So what we have done is, okay, in Chennai city, there is provisions in existing STPs, okay, the septage or the tank emptying tankers can come and okay, deposit the septage in the treatment plant. So what we have done is we have okay this tanker lorry operators, and from them we have collected the samples, and we have given a questionnaire and carried out interview where they are collecting and all the things. So we got all those information. So this is the characteristics. Volatile solids, you can see that it is as high as 14,400 okay in some places, but okay the minimum is 307. That means it is a dilute wastewater. So there is a significant variation in the quality of septage and all other okay the volatile solids, like that if you see BOD, COD, any of those things, there is a significant variation among the septage samples. So we have to have a treatment system which is able to take care of this variation in the characteristics. Then okay, so okay, only very little side 2% or less than 2% solids are there. So we have to have a dewatering system. So how can we do the dewatering? We have tried coagulation, flocculation. It is very costly. Then we have looked into sand filters. Then reed beds. Okay, sand filters also get clogged fast. So reed beds seems to be okay very good. Okay, so we have okay, so allow the septage to pass through the reed bed. Okay, you collect the filtrate and the solid from the top you take it out. Okay, this is the septage solid, and this water needs for the treatment because it is having very high COD and all. So in rural areas we can use it. Okay, use constructed wetland or similar systems for the treatment of this one. In urban areas, if you have an existing STP, this can be put to existing STP for the treatment. So then, okay, the septage we have done, okay, and you know that it is very sticky material. So we have to have, okay, suitable feedstock. So locally available materials we have collected, and we have done extensive screening and characterization and all the things. So we have looked into various, okay, things and selection of suitable feedstock, okay, the air holding capacity. And the most important thing is because septage will be having a lot of pathogens present in the system. Okay, so we have to get the stabilized compost. Okay, the temperature of the composting system should be okay above 50 degree or 55 degrees centigrade for a prolonged period of time. Otherwise, your pathogen destruction will not be happening. So you have to identify the feedstock composition, okay, in such a way that, okay, you'll be getting, okay, this high temperature self-heating test you have to conduct and identify what is the optimum thing. Okay, so we have seen that a mixture of fire pit, mixed organic waste, dewater, septate is the best mix, and we were getting above 55 degrees centigrade for more than 3 days, which is a requirement for obtaining good compost. Okay, we have done lot of work to come to this one. Then, okay, compost dynamics, we have looked into how the temperature is varying, okay, how the loss of organic matter happening, okay, etc. to optimize the conditions. Then, okay, see, after doing that one, what we did is, okay, fire pit and the municipal solid organic waste generated in the households and the septic, we mixed in appropriate concentration and we did the composting. Within 20 days, we were able to get very good value. Okay, this is the compost quality standard values. Different international agency, ammoniacal nitrogen should be less than 700, okay, as per HKORC, and okay, other one 75 to 500. You see, in our cases, okay, always it was within the permissible limit, and C/N ratio should be less than 25. We were getting, okay, 10 to 17. pH value should be between 5.5 to 8.5. You see what we were getting, and seed germination. This is to find out the toxicity of the compost. Okay, seed germination, that means if you put the seed in control condition and the extract from the compost, okay, the germination should be greater than 80% or 80 to 90%. And in our case, we were always getting more than 100% compared to control. That means the compost is having many nutrients which are, okay, improving the germination of the seeds. Okay, and total NPK greater than 4%. Okay, we were getting. What I am trying to tell is, see, we see septage as a major problem, but if you process it properly, it is meeting all the requirement for a very good quality fertilizer. So it can be used as a fertilizer, not only, yeah. So this is the conclusion. So these all are the lab scale studies and all the things. We have a lot of publication. So, okay, by doing all those things, are we going to help our rural India? So we thought that, okay, whatever we have done in the lab, something has to be taken to the field also, so that the rural India is getting benefited. So we have done something, sustainable waste management and resource recovery for clean and healthy village. So here what we were doing is, okay, the benefit, improved cleanliness and hygiene on sustainable basis. Okay, definitely it will be improving the health, improvement in income source through recovery, resource recovery from solid waste and wastewater, and it will be protecting the water sources from contamination and increasing the water availability, because we are recycling the water, that will be improving the water availability, and we are protecting the water sources. So both the benefits will be getting. So solid waste management, initially we took only a small part of the panchayat, around 250 households, segregated organic and other waste. We did the segregation in 3 categories: organic, inorganic, and sanitary waste, because most of the households use diapers and sanitary pads and all the things. So if you mix it with others, okay, the quality will be getting affected. So we were doing it in three bin system. Okay, so we started with 2 laborers and 1 supervisor, collected waste and brought it to the composting plant and all. And the compost plant, okay, whatever the study we had conducted in the lab, the same thing we transferred to the field. So we were getting good quality compost within 20 days. Okay, so this is our compost yard. Okay, you can see that. Okay, and this is the segregate inorganic waste. We are segregating into some 18 different categories, and we have provided an incinerator to manage the sanitary waste. Okay, that means diapers and the sanitary pads and all the things. Okay, and before the project implementation, this was the condition of the village, and you know that this is the condition of most of the villages. The waste ended up on roadsides, flies, mosquitoes, and rats, breeding the potential vectors of disease. Open burning of waste was there, air pollution, uncollected waste, aesthetic of the surrounding is affected. Okay, so this is the road to road collection. Okay, our workers. Okay, this is after project implementation. Before we started, okay, what we have done is we talked to the government officials and villagers and all, and we had a massive cleaning of the area. Then we started the waste collection. Even now, okay, we started this project 3 years back. Even now, we are continuing. At any time we go, this is the condition of the village. Okay, not a single piece of any waste we can see anywhere in the village. And this is organic waste into compost. Okay, they are doing the compost. We are getting very good quality compost. We are assuring the quality. We are monitoring at IIT Madras, and they are selling the compost. Okay, we get, okay, if you are giving us 1 kg packet, we get 20-25 rupees. Okay, it is sold in the market by the workers, and bulk we are getting 10 rupees or 15 rupees per kg of compost. Okay, so that is composting. Many people are doing it. So what extra we have done? Okay, how are we going to do the wastewater or water management? Okay, so in that panchayat they didn't have any stormwater or sewer. So we did complete survey, topographical survey, and identified all the lanes and all the things, houses, lanes, etc. Then what we did? Okay, first we provided the stormwater drain, nothing drain, okay, open drain. Okay, so whatever the rainwater comes, okay, it will be getting collected, and they had a water body. We cleaned that water body and made sure that all this rainwater is going to the water body without any obstruction. So the water collected in the water body was increasing. Then what we did is, in the drainage system, we provided another pipeline. You can see this is a PVC pipeline, and you can see in between the chambers. So this PVC pipeline was collecting all the grey water and septic tank effluent from each household. Because what was happening is, otherwise all the grey water and septic tank effluent was coming out and getting cooled in the roadsides, and it was becoming the breeding ground for mosquitoes and all. So we thought that, okay, providing a sewer is very, very difficult, and all the houses are having septic tank. So we didn't disturb the existing septic tank. Only thing what we did is, we asked them to collect all the pipeline coming from their bathroom, kitchen, and septic tank outlet, okay, to this pipeline. Okay, I'll show you. So this is what they have done: septic tank outlet and bathroom. All those things are coming and getting into this chambers, and through this chamber, it is getting into the pipeline and going. Okay, you can see that. Okay, in all the houses. Okay, then what we are doing? The stormwater is going to the lake, a small lake they have, it is going to the thing, and the grey water or the wastewater water we are collected, we are bringing to another location very near to our compost plant, and we have put our constructed wetland. Again, the design, everything is done based upon the research whatever we have carried out in IIT Madras. Okay, so this is the constructed wetland, you can see. Okay, very good constructed wetland. Okay, and this is the collection tank. And this is the outlet water, okay, inlet water and outlet water. You can see that the quality of the treated water is very good, and this water is being used there, okay, because the compost plant is situated in the agriculture field. So whatever the water coming out of this one, okay, we are pumping it and using it for agriculture purpose. Okay, and by seeing this one, okay, many other villages and government agencies have come. So we are working now in other villages, Singapurimal Koil in Kanchipuram, and it is in Nagapatnam. It is funded by CPCL, Panangudi, Rajapuram, and Vellapakam. Because of this project, CPCL got the Best Industry CSR Activity Award last year. Okay, thank you very much. So I think now we'll have the question and answer section.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Phillips, so much. In fact, it was very interesting to understand the very process involved in wastewater treatment. And I'm sure the participants would have enjoyed this session. And yes, in case any questions, you may please ask the questions directly. Also, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. I mean, a lot of appreciation coming your way, madam, from the participants in the chat box. They're appreciating your talk and the entire session. Yes, and you can maybe post your questions in the chat box even. That's also okay. Or else directly also you can ask.
Yeah. Okay, they can ask directly so that others can hear. That would be better, I think.
Yeah. So you please unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
please.
ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please tell me.
One of the slide you have shown
Yeah.
regarding the nutrient risk indicator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that particular case, the pharmaceutical and nutrient risk indicators to marines. So whatever one question is there, if we see the latitude of our planet, so the most of high risk area is on the particular latitude. Why? We have the Bay of Bengal, okay, in south of whatever in South of America. Can show me the slide. So what happened? Why this? One of the question, because one of the question, the present pandemic situation in Madras, whatever there, in New York, whatever there. So whether this can correlates with the nutrient this indicator. One question is there.
No,
And
not really. Okay, the reason is why the nutrient risk is more there. The population is maximum. You take the equatorial line, and most of the population is situated along that one. You see Asia. Okay, you see other countries. So where the population is more, and many of the developing countries, with large population is coming in that area, and in the majority of this developing countries, the wastewater treatment or the waste management is very, very negligible. Okay, say 20%, 30%. Remaining 70 to 80% is going, either it is solid waste or liquid waste, is going untreated. So naturally, in that area, the nutrient risk as well as the pharmaceutical risk will be high. Okay, so that is nothing to do with the present pandemic. It's all related to the population and how you are managing the waste.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, Dr. Chipa. Yeah, please. You want to ask another question?
Yes.
And Dr. Chipa, you
have also mentioned.
Yeah, please ask your question. Yes.
Yes. You have mentioned the wastewater treatment, and particularly for your one of the basis of wastewater recycling, and in that particular case, closed loop system. Very good for that. So we have more sustainability in water area. Whatever you have mentioned, the two major things, ozonization, one thing. Okay. So because ozonization, this is very costly one. And another graphene oxides you have also used.
See, ozonation is compared to chlorination. Definitely, ozonation is very costly. Okay, but two things. One is ours is a premier institute, so we have to be the model for others. And the government directive is there as far as possible. Don't use chlorine for disinfection for treated wastewater, because you know that organochlorine compounds can get generated, and most of them are carcinogenic. So if you are using this water, either recycling within your campus or you are letting it out to some other water body, this organochlorine compounds will be there, and it is persistent. So that will be creating problem. So we didn't want to use chlorine for our purpose, because mainly we are going to use it for our own purpose and recycling for drinking purpose finally. So we wanted to be extremely careful. So that's why we decided to go for ozonation compared to chlorination. And even ozonation generates disinfection byproduct. So what we are doing is, I told you, the downstream, when we are using the water treatment system, after the conventional treatment system, we have an activated carbon filter, because any disinfection byproducts are taken care by the absorption system. So we are very careful, and we are monitoring each and every minute characteristics of the treated water. Because our own campus community is using, okay, because we have to be extremely careful what we are doing. So, and okay, in my lab, okay, we are doing the analysis so that there will not be any problem. So we are monitoring everything and we are taking care of that one. That's the reason why we didn't go for chlorination and we are going for ozonation. And I also told you Chennai, they are going to go for 260 mld wastewater recycling system, and 20 mld is already under construction, almost getting completed. There also they are going for ozonation because chlorination, okay, if you see CPHU manual and CPCB manual and all, they are telling that as much as possible avoid chlorination for disinfection wherever possible. Okay, they are recommending ozonation or UV. So that's the reason why we have gone for ozonation.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Professor.
lot.
I think
one
answered.
more, sorry, sir. Like Wikipedia, you are the Waterpedia. Yes, ma'am. I congratulate for Waterpedia. Like because lots of knowledge you have. You have collected so many information regarding the sustainability of water. Whatever my group is also doing, carbon quantum dots. Those are for the water purification. Okay. But you have great knowledge. I salute you, ma'am.
Yeah, this all our students work, okay, because we get good students, okay, and they are interested in this aspect. So as professors, we encourage them and motivate them. So okay, all the professors that the work is done really by the students and the project staff. We guide them. So that's right. So,
thank you, Dr. Sifa. Thank you for your appreciation to the speaker. I'm really very happy with that. So any of the participants, in case they want to ask any question, please.
Yes, ma'am. I have.
Yes, Dr. Vidya. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. I'm Vidya Lakshmi from Neris, Itanagar. Actually, means I have one, ma'am. I have one question like regarding this. Like many institutes, they are doing the wastewater recycling process, wastewater treatment, and their recycling process. So, in your means, I would like to know in your institute how that you are doing the recycling process. That is coming out the wastewater, the wastewater coming out from the institute where your chemicals are using, like environmental labs, we are using chemicals, and in our institute we are using forestry department. We have in the forestry department also we are doing some water and the bacteria works and all, and the chemistry departments are there, they are regularly using this chemicals. So in that case, in our institute we are mixing all. That is what I would like to know, that in your institute that you are mixing during the recycling process, or it is separate.
Okay, see, as per government order or EPA EIA regulations, okay, when you go for the consent and all the things, it is mandatory that any lab generating chemicals or any hospital facilities or healthcare facilities, you should have a separate treatment system. So we are following, because we have gone through all the sanctions, okay, we have all the approvals. So what we are doing is, what are the labs, especially chemical engineering department, chemistry department, and environmental engineering department, whatever the wastewater is coming, we have a neutralization tank. Okay, all the wastewater we are collecting and we are neutralizing it. So the acid and if it is acidic or basic, okay, it is getting neutralized, and we allow it to settle in one tank, and the supernatant goes to a sand filter. Okay, then after that, the water is coming from the sand filter is going and getting mixed with the other sewage. Okay, and in the hospital also we have this one precipitation and disinfection. We are disinfecting all the water generated in the health center. Then only we are sending that one to the sewage. Okay, that
actually we should keep separate, but in our institute till now we do not have the separate one. And we are mixing all along with the local wastewater. We are mixing all everything.
And this one is not very difficult. Okay, you can have a tank, a utilizing tank and a sand filter. Then you can let it out into the manhole and send it to the thing. Okay, and only thing is in between you have to scrap the sand filter, because that top will be getting clogged. So those maintenance you have to do. So this is mandatory as per the Pollution Control Board norm. If you want to apply for consent, this you have to do. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vidya.
Hi, ma'am.
You're always very interactive. That's very good. And Dr. Philip, there's a question in this chat box from 2416. I don't know what's his name or her
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
This is
While composting, how do you maintain the C/N ratio? See,
and that's from Dr. Praveen Purohit, the coordinator himself. Dr. Praveen, you could ask the question directly instead of putting it there in the chat box. Yeah, but that's a question Dr. Philip can respond.
okay. See, okay, we know that what is the C/N ratio of the compost because you do the CHNF analysis. Then, okay, what we are doing is, okay, we are using some bulking agent. So they are available, carbon and nitrogen we are measuring. Then we are using the compost. And C/N ratio, we are always keeping between 15 and 20 so that, okay, you'll be getting a better compost. Okay, so you have to select appropriate proportion of your carpet, okay, your sludge and the organic, the kitchen waste or the solid organic solid waste. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Philip. I suppose Dr. Purohit, you stand answered. It seems that's okay.
Yeah,
There's another question. What is the cost? Yes, Dr. Praveen.
If we want to increase the carbon to nitrogen ratio, then what to suggest so as to increase? Because if the carbon content increases, problem of is there, and other things are also will be not effective.
See, what you do is, okay, you increase your
using the solid
bulk.
has a definite amount of
See, okay, we were using this one carpet or fry leaf, okay, where the carbon nitrogen ratio is more, lower. Okay, you use that one and okay, find out the appropriate proportion. Then you will be able to control the carbon nitrogen ratio. Okay, within the limit. Okay, because depending upon your waste, the C/N ratio will be varying. So you have to select different combinations and find out when you will be coming within that window.
Thank you, Dr. Philip. And that the question I was asking, there's a question from somebody 2416. I don't know who the person is. What is the cost of setting up a fecal sewage treatment plant, and what is its running cost?
Okay. See, fecal. Okay. See, whatever we have done. Okay, it is a composting based system. Okay, so it's all depending upon what is the quantity you are going to treat, because the septage generated will not be too high if you are taking a smaller area. Okay, because that this one cleaning of the septic tank usually happens once in a year or once in 2 years. So you have to see what is the quantity of this one coming. Okay, and the dewatering system. Okay, dewatering system you can put around 15 centimeter water depth. So it is like a sand drying bed. Okay, the way what we are doing the sand drying bed, exactly the same way you can design the dewatering system. And composting, okay, you don't need much space. Okay, so depending upon the quantity you are telling, okay, I'll be able to tell what is the space requirement. Okay, because composting it is only a 1 or 2 chamber thing, because it is 20 days composting, so you may have to 2 times. So okay, 2 boxes you can have. Then the dewatering system, that's all is needed for fecal sludge management if you are going for composting.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And I think the question from whom it was like the person stands answer. Anyone else?
So I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Hello, this is Shiggy here. I'm from Bangalore. Ma'am, thank you so much for a very informative session. I had a doubt that in one of your slides, you were showing that for ultrafiltration, PES membrane, silica, and dopamine is mixed. I was not sure what was the role of dopamine in that ultrafiltration.
See, okay, when we wanted to dope it or paste it, okay, on the membrane, okay, we have to have some metrics in it. For that purpose only we have used it. Okay, so we have taken PES membrane. Then, okay, initially what we did is, okay, we have done a coating of the silica nanoparticles on this one. And that time what we did is we doped, the silica particles. Okay, doping was much better than the coating. Coating was reducing the pore size and permeate flux and all of it. So the last stage we have done the doping. Yeah, that's what we have done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Segi, for asking this question. That's good. So maybe we can take up one or two more questions, then we'll close the session. Yeah, you're welcome in case you're willing to ask any question.
I think everybody is tired.
Not exactly. But I mean, you were so nice in your presentation. I think it was very nicely explained. So very informative. I think the participants, they were also really very receptive in the morning session. So they've got the the gist of what you wanted to present to them. So that's how. But I think there was a lot of discussion, and you handled all the queries so very nicely, Madam Lazy. So I appreciate that, and thank you. In fact, so with that, I think thanks to you a lot, Professor Philip. Yes, please.
Yeah. Hello, sir. This is Maheshwari.
Yeah, Maheshwari, please ask.
Yes, I want to ask question to ma'am. Hello.
Maheshwari, where from you are? Yeah, please identify yourself and then ask a question. Where from you are? Which institute?
I'm from Sinhagad College of Engineering, Pune.
Pune. Okay, right. Please ask your question.
Okay, ma'am. Actually, you told that electrocoagulation is it is very good in the industries, but I have a doubt over there.
I didn't tell that electrocoagulation is very good in industry. I told electrocoagulation is not very popular in industry because of passivation and the anode dissociation. You have to keep replacing the anode. Okay, so it is not becoming very popular in industry. Okay, so how can we make it more popular? That's what I was trying to do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we did is to remove the passivation, we have made a rotating system. So the passivation reduced significantly. And instead of sacrificing anode, using fresh metal, which is very costly, you use the construction debris. The construction debris material, like iron, aluminum, etc. So the cost
Yes,
of it is very less.
Yeah, rotating one is feasible.
Yeah, rotating one is very feasible. Okay, I have shown you the pictures and the passivation is very less in the rotating one.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
So thank you, Professor Philip, once again. In fact, we are really very privileged, to listen to your talk, and I think it was very beneficial to all the participants. And definitely, they'll have something, to work on out of this presentation. Maybe they can pick up some idea from this, and they can work on. In case they are willing to, any one of the participants is willing to contact you for certain maybe research or academic purposes. So maybe they can write email to you. So that'll be okay, fine.
Yeah, that is fine, and you can go to my website. Okay, all information is there.
Okay. So that's very nice. Thank you so much. So over to Dr. Jakad to for your comments, Dr. Jakad, in the concluding of this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, madam, for your very nice and very informative, excellent presentation. And I think all participants enjoyed, and they've shown their feedback with your very excellent session. And you have nicely presented the waste management for sustainability and the water treatment management, waste management. So it was a very excellent and wonderful session. Thank you so much, madam, and thanks to all participants. Over to Professor Sarthak.
Thank you, Dr. Jakad. And with that, I think thanks to all the participants, and most of all, thanks to the honorable speaker, Dr. Lisa Philip from IIT Madras. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a privilege having you. And I'll share a document with your email. Please do the needful and send it back to us, right? So thank you with that. Ravi, I think we can close the session. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for the participants.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.